You've probably heard on the news or around the water cooler about someone who bought a home for 50 cents on the dollar. For every potential investor or buyer, their eyes light up with dollar signs, not understanding what that really means. I talked about this just a bit in the video about how foreclosures are priced. So stick with me here and I'll show you how to know for sure how much you can get off the price of the home. Let's take a look at some of the listings that have recently sold. The percentage the buyer negotiated off the current list price and what the home sold for years back. Let's look at foreclosure homes. In order to see what they sold for in good condition around the height of the market, I'm only going to look at homes built in 2005 and 2006. To make sure we're looking at the most current data, let's look at the homes that have sold in the last couple of months. Okay, there are 11. We won't look at all of these because I just want to demonstrate what I'm talking about, not put you to sleep. Okay, so let's look at the first listing. The list price at the time the home went under contract was $369,900. The purchaser bought the home for $346,680 and the seller contributed $7,239 to their closing costs. Not bad. They got about $28,000 off the list price. But that's just over 8% off the current list price. So they paid 92 cents on the dollar. If we look at the public records though, we see that this home, although built in 2006, didn't sell until 2007, but sold for about $303,000. Oddly enough, this home appears to have sold for more now than it did in 2007. Okay, we're going to skip the second listing because it is showing as new construction, meaning that the builder never completed or sold the home, so we won't have a 2006 sold comparison. The third sold listing does look interesting though. The list price at the time of contract was $294,900. The home sold for $292,000 and the bank paid $12,500 toward buyer closing costs. So the total reduction from sales price is about $15,400. So the buyer paid 95 cents on the dollar. So let's see how much they got off if we were to compare it to the price in 2006. Okay, this home sold in December of 2006 for $450,200. The buyer of this home should be very happy because they got this home for 62 cents on the dollar when comparing it to what it sold for in 2006. Okay, let's jump down a few and see what's going on in the lower price range. Listing number 6 takes us down below the $200,000 list price mark. This home was listed at the time of contract for $187,700. It sold for $187,700 and the bank only paid about $700 in closing costs. This home sold for 99.6% of the current list price. But tax records show us that this home sold in July of 2006 for $277,200. So again, this is a pretty great deal if you're comparing to 2006 prices because the buyer got this home for 67 cents on the dollar when comparing it to the 2006 sales price. So we can go on. The next home was listed for $184,900, sold for $188,750 with closing costs. They paid about 100% of list price. The next was listed for $179,000 and sold for $179,000. With closing costs, they paid just over 97% of list price. The next was listed at $149,900 and sold for $145,000 with no closing costs. They paid about 97% of list price, etc., etc. So now you know. As of today in our area, homes are not selling for 50 cents on the dollar. They are selling for somewhere between 62 and 67 cents on the dollar when you're comparing it to what they sold for at the peak of our market, but are selling for 95 to 97 cents on the dollar when comparing to the current list price. The buyer who believes the news or the water cooler talk and is pre-qualified for $200,000 will incorrectly be looking at $400,000 homes and will quickly become frustrated. So, when you're ready to buy and know how much your mortgage company is willing to lend you, ask your agent, whether it's us or someone else, to redo this type of comparison to make sure you're looking at homes in the right price range.